So making sure that we're investing in our friendships, the people that we might call family that aren't necessarily family, or that could be family that we want to invest in. But it could be personal, it could be professional, but just making sure we're carving out the time for that. And that was a big highlight of my year last year. Was there I had many long-term friends that historically I haven't gotten to spend much time with. And I made a point to either go visit them or they came to visit me, and just to reconnect was so enjoyable, and I wanted to keep that going. This is the Leadership Foundry podcast. I'm your host this week, Brandon Smith, and I am joined by my amazing producer and co-host this week, Whitney Mendoza. Whitney, how are you?
I'm great, Brandon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I was telling Whitney that when I went to church recently on Sunday, we had to grab a star from the pulpit, and the star that I got had a word on it. And my word for this year is passion. So apparently I need to be more passionate. So I'm excited about our topic this week, Whitney. We're going to talk about setting goals, annual goals, reflecting on our goals, setting goals. And I think I've got an interesting take or a way to do this. That's not the standard old stop, start, continue, and, reflecting on the year. So I think I've got an approach that will be a little different than what we're used to.
I'm excited to hear that because I'm kind of like anti-goal. I'm like anti-New Year. Maybe let me rephrase. I'm anti-New Year's resolution. I feel like those don't develop into habits, right? Like I feel like a resolution is just like with one end in sight, where developing strong habits is ongoing. Is that where you're going?
No, actually, that's not at all where I'm going today. I agree with what you're saying. So there might be a way we can dovetail that into it. But where I want to go today is I want to get us thinking differently and maybe more broadly about goals.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to offer.
All right.
Let's see how this works for everybody. We're going to go back in time a little bit. For some of us, just a little bit back in time. For others of us, a lot more back in time. We're going to go to college. So the way I'm going to frame up our goals is we're going to think of it in terms of classes that we would take in a semester. Okay. So
kind of like a syllabus.
Like a syllabus. That's right. And each class is going to represent something important in our life.
All right.
So the reason why this matters is because we're going to be looking at it more from like an overall GPA for the semester. And I don't think we do that with goals. I think often we'll be like, well, I got an A here. Yeah, but on those 3 classes, you got an F. So that means you got to redo the semester. That's not what we're going for. We want a little more balanced approach. So I'm gonna try and offer us a little more balanced approach. So Whitney, when you're ready, let me know, and we will start with our first class.
I'm ready. You know what? I liked school. I always sat in the front row. The teacher told me I wasn't allowed to answer any more questions. So I think I'm going to be pretty good at this. I do my homework.
Okay. So I'm going to offer up, 5 of us. They're kind of like, most of them are classes. One's kind of more part of the college experience, but 5. And then you got 2 bonus ones that may or may not be relevant. So it's kind of like if you want to take extra classes, you could. Okay. So in no particular order, here is our first one. I'll start with the obvious one. Some form of PE. We're going to take some form of PE. And so that sounds so basic and generic, but what that really means is think about your physical health. And so I would encourage you to think in a couple ways. First, in terms of exercise. And as we get older, we want to make sure we're doing more strength training. So we've got that component into it. So you want to have some kind of regular exercise routine. That can be as simple as walking, but it can involve more strength training and those types of things. There's classes for that, but that's part of that. The other part of it is also, I would put in PE, since we're talking more about physical, diet and sleep. So I'd also put that in there too. I can tell you I'm pretty good on sleep, and I've gotten better at it. I found some ways to get better at sleep. My diet is horrible. I'm not doing very well in this class. I've got some good on the physical education part in terms of exercise. I've got some diet issues, admittedly, team. And I even got called out last night. I had my kids at home, and we're all sitting around and talking. And I came out of the kitchen with a couple cookies in my hand. It was probably 10 o'clock at night, 9:30. My wife said, "Hey, can I talk about those cookies?" And my daughter quickly jumped in and said, No. You need to let him have a pass. He can eat those cookies. But I'm not doing quite as well overall in this class. But I think the category is important. Physical education. So what are we doing to take care of our bodies? You can even throw stretching in there as another piece to that. So I'll pause, Whitney. Any reactions to our first class?
Starting class off strong begins with like solid foundations. And I really think, healthy eating habits should get a pass until at least like January 8th, right? Because you've cooked all the stuff. Even though the holidays have passed, you still have good food in the fridge that shan't go to waste. It shan't go to waste. So I think it's good that you eat all of that, but then you set yourself, which is, I feel like part of the success in all seriousness is setting a goal of when you're actually going to commit to this, right? Like if there's a little bit of temptation still in the fridge, I look at it as overall, I feel like if we're looking at the GPA, I feel like I typically get a pretty good grade year round on what I eat. So a little bit in like between November and December, I allow myself to indulge slightly. But I know I'm going to get back to it.
I liked you, Whitney. I knew I liked you. So I love that. Okay, so our first class. Again, no shocker to anybody. This would be on anybody's kind of radar, but it's a good reminder. And also just to attend to the obvious, as we hit different decades, this needs to adjust. Whether we're talking about sleep or flexibility or changing how we exercise, the different adjustments are necessary. And everybody's body is a little different. And knowing your own body is part of that. So we're going to, in this spirit of self-awareness, we've just finished our first class. We're going on to the next class. It's a little bit further down campus. It's in the psychology building. So we're going to psychology class next. And why this is an important class for us, and it often gets ignored when we talk about things like goals, is it's important for us to reflect on our own patterns. How have we been operating, and where have those patterns come from? The obvious answer is probably our childhood. Probably has a lot to do with our family of origin. But we have patterns, often many self-protective behaviors that we put in place, which we've probably outgrown, but we're still doing them. And so those can limit us. It can limit our relationships, can limit our performance, can limit a lot of things. So I think psychology class is a good next class to attend, and maybe spend a little time on reflection and notice, are there any patterns in my life I'm doing or beliefs I've been holding on to which are not really serving me anymore? So I'll pause there. And Whitney, what do you think about psychology class next?
I love this concept, and I will tell you, studying other people who have been successful throughout their life, and I would include you, Brandon, and Randy in that. I mean, I constantly hear you, and you constantly talk about on the show, making sure that we're scheduling time to pause, we're writing down our thoughts, we're just not kind of thinking of them and moving on and letting them flow elsewhere, but really reflecting on that. And I feel the ability to do that and scheduling the time to do that helps us to make the following year that much more better.
Yeah, agreed. And I will tell you, just in the spirit of full candor, last year was a rough year for me. And it was this class that was killing me, because I had a lot of issues last year with extended family, both on my side and my wife's side, as well as my aging parents. Dad's 90, mom's 87, and taking care of them. It brought up a lot of stuff that I needed to deal with. And it took a lot of energy out of me last year. So this class got a way more attention last year than I'm hoping it's going to get this year. Hopefully I did the work I needed to do to be able to go to the next level of class. But it's just a reminder for us to spend some time reflecting. Are there patterns that are no longer serving you well, or expectations you have of people that maybe aren't quite true to who they are or true to the situation you find yourself in? So just getting us to reflect a little bit on the way we have been wired and any rewiring we might need to do.
Yeah.
So psychology class was second. So now we're going to continue on campus. We are going to go to.
Is it grammar? I think I need to go to grammar because I realize I just used the phrase more better.
We got Chat GPT for that now, apparently.
Okay,
so
great.
You don't even need class for that anymore. We are going to move though, before we kind of have some lunch, we are going to go to the Career Management Center next.
Okay.
So we're going to spend some time at the Career Management Center. We're going to just spend a little time reflecting on our own professional goals. So where are we at right now? Where do we want to go? What are some possible opportunities we can explore and unlock? Those could be promotions. Those could just be a change of performance. Could be a change in scenery. Could be a lot of things, but it's just an opportunity for us in this class to think a little bit about what are my professional goals that I've got. We want to hold money aside. We're not talking about money yet. Money will come in another class. This is mostly about how do we want to grow as a professional. So it could even be, how do I want to get better as a leader? That's part of the Career Management Center class that we're going to go to. So I think this is also an important one, just to reflect a little bit on where do we want to go. Whenever I historically would talk to students about identifying career purpose and vocation, I'd always say to folks, you will have a purpose, a professional purpose in life. That's not really a question mark. Everybody does. It's a question of whether we define it ourselves or someone else defines it for us. So this class is really about self-reflection. So it's building on our psychology class a little bit, but we're going to spend some time thinking about where am I headed? And is that where I want to go? And make any course corrections from a professional development standpoint. So Whitney, reactions to this class?
This is where my straight A student self would shine, because I would be in the Career Center wanting to make sure that I'm on track. I'm looking at my classes. Is there a way maybe I could get some extra credit, take an additional class? I think that's a beautiful way to look at this, because there are there courses that we need to take? Are there things that we need to read? And just as you pointed out, Brandon, reassessing where we are and what we need to do to get to the next level. And I also think it aligns really nice with psychology class that we just left, because that points a little bit back to that self-reflection and being able to schedule time in. And I think the top of the year is just prime for that.
I love that, Whitney. And as you were talking, it made me think, gosh, this class would pair really well with a person. Like, you could have a person that kind of helps give you advice or feedback. I mean, it could be a coach, or it could be a mentor, or it could be anybody. And all these classes pair well with a person. So psychology, I mean, you can do this by yourself. You can have a friend that you can talk to. Are you going to go see a counselor or a therapist? That's really healthy activity for all human beings at some point, to do a little bit of self-reflection on their own story and journey. And of course, when we talk about PE, maybe you've got a coach that's going to help you with your food and picking the right nutrition for you, a nutritionist or friend. Same thing at the gym. Maybe you got someone who's going to work out with you to hold you accountable. And there's a lot of ways we can kind of pair all these with a person or people to support it. All right. Well, we've hit 3 classes so far. We've talked a little bit about not only PE and spent some time exercising there, and psychology, into our own psyche and our own story. We spent some time on the Career Management Center. We're hungry. Okay. So we're going to lunch. All right. So we're going to call this class essentially kind of a social, kind of the social component in college. Right? That's where we build relationships. And why it's so important I'm mentioning this, it's not really a class per se, but when you look at the research, the people that lived the longest, particularly when they studied males, the men that lived the longest were the people that had 5 or more friends. Okay. That doesn't sound like a big number, but what we're finding over a career with all the busyness, we don't invest enough in our relationships, our social time, our friends. And when that number dips below 2, that's when you see suicide rates get very high. People just die younger. So making sure that we're investing in our friendships, the people that we might call family that aren't necessarily family, or that could be family that we want to invest in. But it could be personal, it could be professional, but just making sure we're carving out the time for that. And that was a big highlight of my year last year. Was I had many long-term friends that historically I haven't gotten to spend much time with. And I made a point to either go visit them or they came to visit me, and just to reconnect was so enjoyable, and I wanted to keep that going. So that's our fourth college class, so to speak. This is going to be kind of a lunchroom, cafeteria time, social events, all that's part of the college experience. So Whitney, what do you think about this class?
No, I love it on two sets. Number one, I don't know if this is in college. So if we're in college courses, but I remember in like elementary school, you were assigned a table that you had to set it at lunch. I'm so glad we don't have to do that as adults, right? We can go and pick who we want to sit with, and we can be really intentional about doing that. But it also reminded me of a book I read over the holidays, and they were essentially discussing why we forget to laugh. And one of the characters in the book said, laughing heals much. And, I just think I know we're not done, and we're not at the end of the day, and we're not done with all of our classes, but that really puts a nice bow on where we've been thus far.
I love that. And something I want to draw out. You said, we're adults now. We don't have to sit at the table that we were assigned to. How many people are listening to this right now that are still sitting at the table they were assigned to?
Yes.
Really profound comment, Whitney. I think you nailed it.
Thank
we
you.
are sitting, many of us are still sitting at that table. Get up and move. You don't like the people you're sitting at the table with, get up and move. Go sit, go make your own table. Go and find some people to do that. And just that exercise can be really healing in itself. And then those people are probably going to get your sense of humor, and you laugh more, and it's just more enjoyable.
Look,
so I love
they
that.
take naps away from us, but you can go and sit whatever table you want to sit at. So cash in on those adult benefits.
I'm old school. I'm bringing naps back.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a campaign that should live on year after year.
So just for sake of time, I said I was going to hit, let's see here, 5 of these. And we've already gone through 4. Okay, so we've already gone through physical education. We went to psychology. We did our career management center. We went lunch. And we're going to do one more main class, and then I'm going to offer some optional classes. So one more main class. We're going to walk down the other side of campus in the business school, and we're going to take a finance and accounting class.
Oh, this is probably the 1B I got.
And this is the one where we're really spending some time thinking about financial goals. So what are our financial goals this year? And that could be in terms of income, perhaps bonuses, if we have an opportunity to get a bonus. It could be in terms of retirement. We want to save extra for retirement, or maybe we want to invest in something. There could be a lot of things that fall in this category, but it's just kind of keeping our financial house in order, making sure we're keeping our debt under control, paying it down as best we can, but most importantly, not going into credit card debt if we can help it. It's all that kind of stuff. So really making sure that, we are going into the year with some kind of a financial game plan. So that is not a stressor for us, but more of a source of a measurable reward at the end of the year. So that would be our final kind of official class in our slate of semester classes before I offer our optional ones. So Whitney, how about these or this class, finance and accounting?
Math was not my favorite subject in school, but I will back that up with saying this is a class that I really feel you have to study to pass. You have to write the number down. You have to make a plan. If it's just in your mind and you're not tracking spending, saving, new initiatives you're bringing in, are you spending money on stuff that you shouldn't be? And that's, company-wide and personally, you got to study. You've got to write this down, in my opinion, as math not being my favorite.
No, agreed. And it depends upon the situation you're in. So for example, if we look at basic business concepts, it's revenue and then expenses, and the difference is profit. Okay. And we're trying to come out at the end of this year with high profit. Well, depending upon your situation, if you're more entrepreneurial, you have a lot more control over revenue. You can set your pricing. You can set your services. There's a lot of ways you can move the needle on that. Okay. If that's fixed, okay, and you're in a role that's got more of a salary and maybe there's no bonus opportunity, then the way you're going to maximize profit is you got to get your expenses under control. So thinking a little bit about that, are there anything here that's kind of weighting you down or eating into your profit? Not to say you ignore expenses if you're an entrepreneur, but you can control the top line a little bit more. So it's just a question of knowing your context to know which of those levers you need to really focus on and pull hard.
Yeah. And another benefit of not being in school is you can cheat now, right? Like you can go get a financial advisor or someone to help you think through these things if it's not your favorite, right? So it definitely can't be ignored if it's not one of your favorite things. But the beauty is, to your point, Brandon, this is a great class where you can bring in someone else to get some help and they can help a lot.
You can get tutors, but some of these classes can commingle. So in our social time, you can talk to friends that have kind of figured this out really well and ask their opinion or advice. What should I be doing? So there's a lot of different resources to help you, and some are paid resources and some are free resources. Okay, so that's our semester. I want everyone thinking about those classes. Okay, so we got PE, we got psychology, we got career management center, we got social time because that's part of the college experience, building those friendships and nurturing lifelong friendships. And then we got finance and accounting. Okay. So 2 bonus classes, depending upon the nature of your world, kind of the season of life you're in, but also how much free time you have. Okay. So I'm going to start with history. We'll just throw history class in next. So this represents just continuing growth and learning as a human being. So it's kind of like hobbies. Maybe you want to pick up. I know some people love reading biographies. That's a form of history. Right? Or reading other kinds of books as entertainment, or listening to podcasts, or perhaps it's taking an art class or a dance class, or just doing something maybe you've put down for 10 or 20 years, and maybe you want to pick back up again. Just that hobby that will kind of give you a little more charge and recharge. Doesn't really necessarily have to do with your profession. Doesn't really have to necessarily do with making you more money, but it's something maybe you've missed and will help kind of round you out. So we're kind of thinking about that. We're a classic liberal arts education. We're rounding ourselves out a little bit on this one. So that history class kind of represents extra hobbies and interests and things that will just help round out your quality of life. So Whitney, curious to this class. What do you think about this one?
There's always something new to learn in history. And I like this extra credit class because if you incorporate this throughout the year, I feel like it helps you take with you that New Year energy, right? Like everyone is excited. It represents a fresh start when we hit January 1. I feel if you're incorporating new things and you're constantly learning and you're working in something that's not necessarily work related, to keep things fresh and new perspectives and to continue learning, I just feel like that can kind of just weave in that New Year excitement a little bit all year long.
Yeah, I love this one. You almost were hinting at like that line from Christmas Vacation, the gift that keeps on giving the whole year long. You almost nailed that with the Jelly of the Month Club. By the way, my son Noah got me a Jelly of the Month Club subscription for Christmas.
I hope that was real nice.
Oh, nice, Whitney. Well done. So I have to be honest here. I don't think I'll be taking the history class this year. I really want to. I really, really want to, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time because I've got another class I have to take.
Uh-oh.
And this one is human development.
Okay.
So this is our class when we have kiddos in the house of various ages and stages. And that is a class that takes a lot of time and effort. It's constantly evolving and we really don't want to screw it up. So I think that's our other optional class. If you've got kiddos in the house at various ages and stages, a good class to take. You're going to be enrolled in that whether you like it or not. So it's an important one. And my counsel on this particular class is in order to do this class right. So let me put a caveat here. Parenting philosophies are like religion. If I sit there and tell someone who's got kiddos how to parent, they're going to be like, you're telling me my religion's bad, even if their religion is bad. Okay. Because not all parenting approaches work, folks. We can all agree to that. So that's an important kind of notion in this. But I do think it's really, really important to do 2 things. And it's consistent with what we talk about with our guests on these shows. First, you need to have a goal. Most parents don't actually have a goal. And the goal needs to be as simple but as clear as I'm trying to raise a fully formed adult that can leave the nest and be able to be self-sufficient and make a positive contribution in the community and world around them. If there are so many parents right now that actually had a goal like that, if they actually put that up on the wall, there's a lot of things they wouldn't do because their parenting actually doesn't go in that direction. They're not helping their kids launch. In fact, they're trying to keep their kids at home because it makes them feel more needed. That would not be consistent with that goal. So that's the first. Second one is you need to have your own philosophy on how you parent. You can't copy the neighbor next door. We have too much copycatting going on right now, and it's copycatting bad parenting approaches, which is causing issues. So you got to create your own, just like any company, right? Just like we talk about a company culture, you set your own values. You don't say, oh, well, it's a completely different company down the hall, but I like their values. We'll just take theirs. It doesn't work. You have to come up with your own. So this class is a hard class. A lot of people struggle in this class because they just try and copy the paper of their classmate next to them, and it doesn't work. So you need to have your own goal. You need to create your own philosophy. So this class might require a little extra effort if you're not already finding yourself struggling. So that's my 2 cents on this other optional class, which I'm still in because I've got a 17-year-old at home. So I've got one more kiddo at home and then a couple college kids. So while I don't see the college kids every day, there's still parenting that has to occur there. So let me pause. Whitney, any reactions to that last class?
I love that. I feel like there are a lot of distractions that can pull us in different ways, and us deciding on our own North Star, to borrow a phrase that Wills Moore shared with us. This helps keep us focused on the straight ahead.
Agreed, 100%. So challenging, but an important class, and particularly if you find yourself enrolled in it, whether that was your hope or not. It's a critical class. So that's a way to think about goals for this year. Maybe you've got a different class you want to offer into your set of goals. Perfectly fine, but think of it as overall semester. And the reason why I like that is because we're not concerned so much about a grade in a particular class. We're trying for an overall high GPA, high average GPA. Because when we over-index on one class, we say, I got an A in finance and accounting. Sure, I got an F in human development, but that's okay. I don't think anyone would agree that's okay. And so how do we kind of keep them all in the A and B range? And that's the challenge. So I don't know what your particular reaction was to that list, but hopefully you all found maybe a class in there or two that maybe got you thinking a little bit about 2024 in a different way and how you want to invest your time. And with all of our podcasts, we always try and encourage you to identify that one thing you can start doing today that's going to help you and your team, perhaps, or your family in other cases, thrive starting tomorrow.